Have you ever heard the term project management and wondered what exactly it meant? Project management is applying knowledge and skills, various tools and techniques to project activities to achieve an end goal, an end result, an outcome that offers value and benefits. That's pretty much the summary. So, in the next few minutes, let's talk about what I call smart project management. Project management needs to be made specific and measurable. It's become very popular in today's world, the whole concept of project management. In fact, 90% of global senior executives in this survey ranked project management as either critical or somewhat important to their ability to deliver successful projects and remain competitive. In this next survey, you see those organizations that don't use a methodology don't do as good as organizations that do. You also see that a huge 41% of these organizations surveyed used a methodology based on the project management body of knowledge. Now, that is not to say that every organization needs to use that, but using a methodology that is well thought out and intentional will give you a competitive edge over those that don't. So basic definitions in project management. What is a project? It's a temporary endeavor. It's got a beginning and an end. Projects start and end unlike operational work. The main goal of the project, like I said, is to create a unique product, service, or result to deliver an outcome that satisfies the customer. Here are some examples of projects. Now, you've probably heard of these projects at one point or another: the Pyramids of Giza, the Great Wall of China, the Taj Mahal, publication of a children's book, and all these projects. But I would like to draw your attention to an even simpler set of projects. How about projects such as driving to work, making dinner, hosting a family for celebration, writing a book? All of these are also examples of projects. A lot of folks may not realize that these are projects. They've got a start, they've got an end, they've got a goal. So a project doesn't have to use a big old budget before it's called a project. Some very simple things could be looked at as projects. Start, end, value, benefits, outcome. That needs to be how you think. Fast forward to 1969. The PMI, Project Management Institute, was founded by the 5 individuals you see on the screen. And since the PMI was founded, they've been key in putting project management on the map. Various certifications such as the PMP that you see over here. The PMP certification at the time had 40 people certified in 1984. Let's zoom in. 1984, you see 40 people certified, but today, if I was going to plot this, it would go outside of this. We have 1.25 plus million certified PMPs. So this should show you project management is here to stay. But let's take a look at what project management is. 1, it's leading a team of people to achieve a desired outcome and goals through servant leadership. Project management also involves leading a team to incremental success through excellent communication and interpersonal skills. It also involves making proactive change, applying skills, tools, and techniques to organize, execute, and manage project work and assignments. It also involves reporting on project progress and key risks, issues, and decisions. And it also involves delivering incremental value using hybrid methods and approaches. Take a quick look at these 2 approaches to project management. There's an approach which we will call the simple zone over here. And the simple zone, as you can see on the screen, is just showing that, okay, if you have requirements that are close to certainty or close to agreement from the parties involved, and you have technical aspects of the project which are close to certainty, then it means you got a firm idea of what you're doing and you got a firm idea of how to do it. So you're in the simple zone. But if you begin to move away from being close to certainty in the technicalities and further away from agreement in terms of requirements, that's where you begin to hit the complex zone. And that means you need to be more nimble to adapt so that your project has a better chance of success. We call that getting into this agile zone. The more complex, the more agile you need to be. The simpler it is, the more predictive you could be. So if we take a look here, I'll show you a couple of examples. Here's an example of predictive project management. Everything's planned up front, and we've got an end goal, somewhere we're going to. And we do not deliver any value until we get to the end goal. But getting to the end goal is planned out ahead of time. Now that's different from agile and adaptive projects where you plan a little bit and then you do, and then you plan, recalibrate, then you pivot. You plan and then you do, you plan and then you do, you plan and then you do. And you ultimately get to your end goal, but it has to be through a series, as it were, of iterations and experiments where you are delivering value probably along the way. I like to use an analogy of cooking dinner. So in this example here, imagine you're cooking for your family. They know you're not the best cook. So every once in a while, they're checking in to ask, how's it going? What are you cooking? Give us a sample. Let's make sure you don't burn the kitchen. And at the end of the day, when you get to the end goal, because you've had so many successive increments and iterations, the likelihood of you getting to your end goal is a lot firmer. But if you had someone who's cooked the same meal a gazillion times, like in your favorite restaurant, the chef knows what he's doing, it's pretty much a straight line. There's very little experimentation, and that's where predictive shines. Now, you could combine the best of both worlds to give a hybrid approach which contains an agile flavor and a predictive flavor. We're doing these simultaneously for different parts of the project to get the best outcome. Now, going a little bit further to underscore what we mean by predictive approaches, we can underscore predictive approaches using what I call process group pentagon. Process group pentagon shows you this pentagon with 5 pieces of initiating the project, planning the project, executing it, monitoring and controlling, and closing the project. In initiating, we authorize the project. In planning, we plan how to do the work. In executing, we do the work. In monitoring and controlling, we monitor and control how we're proceeding. And in closing, we close out the project, we hand over the deliverables, and everyone's happy. But going to a deeper level of understanding, we can go into details about what happens in initiating. It's the project charter. The project charter is a document that authorizes the project. In planning, we plan the project. There's actually a document called a project management plan, and I'm going to put links below so that you can go to sites where you can find these templates and use them on your projects. We have executing, which is carrying out the work to produce the deliverables, monitoring and controlling. We create reports, we manage change on the project, and closing. And these process groups have specific things we do here, right? In initiating, we first of all should have done a needs assessment, and then we write the charter. In planning, we're going to plan all aspects of the project. In executing, we're going to lead the team. In monitoring and controlling, we're going to check and act as necessary. And in closing, we're going to either be closing out a phase in the project or the project as a whole. And this is how you need to be thinking about project management across various aspects, various variables and domains. Now, these aspects, we refer to them as areas of knowledge. So we're going to go a little bit deeper to talk about these predictive aspects of project management. And we're going to start off with the concept one more time of initiating. So let's start off. We initiate a project by developing a charter. We also identify stakeholders, people that the project could affect, people who could be affected by the project. And then we plan. We plan everything. Scope, we plan our schedule, we plan our quality, plan our resources, communications, risk, procurement, stakeholder, everything is planned, right? We want to get a firm idea of cost as well. And after we've planned, the next thing is to execute and then monitor and control the project and close the project. But let's go a little bit deeper into executing. Executing is where we do a number of things such as directing and managing the overall work, thinking about lessons learned and conducting those to glean knowledge, managing quality, resources, developing the team, managing the team through giving them feedback. This is actually more like a leadership job right here. So we lead the team, we manage the administration of the team, we manage communications, we implement risk responses, we carry out those things we said we would to deal with risks, we conduct procurements such as contracts, we award a contract, and we engage our stakeholders. We call it managing stakeholder engagement. Then we monitor and control everything. We manage those changes through integrated change control. We do an overall project report. We control the scope and the schedule, the cost and the quality. We keep them on track. We control the physical resources. We monitor communications and risks. We control procurements, and we monitor stakeholders' engagement on the project. And these are things that we do in the monitoring and controlling aspect. Finally, in closing, we close out either a project or phase. We compile lessons learned, we do a final report, and we release resources. So you can see from these illustrations that project management is pretty straightforward. Now, going into a little bit more detail about the concept of Agile, a lot of this is based on what we call the Agile Manifesto. So if you have not read the Agile Manifesto, I want to encourage you to go on down to agilemanifesto.org. Agile is a mindset. As this quote says, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, but the one most adaptable. And that's why we call Agile adaptable, because it's all about being adaptable to change. Being adaptable to change means you're going to have a mindset of individuals and interactions over processes and tools. You're going to focus on getting a product that works, and you're going to value that, even though you might have documentation, but you're going to value getting a working product in over comprehensive documentation. You're going to value collaborating with your customer rather than negotiating for the next buck, and you're going to respond to change. You're going to value responding to change over following a plan, because being able to respond to change is critical. Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they're punched in the mouth. Isn't that true? We all have plans until a change comes, and then we got to respond. But we should have had that mindset first of responding to change. The next piece of the Agile Manifesto at agilemanifesto.org focuses on principles. So we have 12 principles, and I'm not going to go over every single principle today, but I want to encourage you to, in your spare time, go over the principles. Principle number 1 is the very important one I want to focus on here. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable product. Keep your eye on that one. That is very important. We've got 11 other great ones. The final one I want to focus on is number 12. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So have some intermissions where you think about how to become more effective. It will help you as you proceed in your projects. Okay, in closing, in the world of Agile, we start off with a vision. We have an Agile project charter that puts that vision down on paper. We craft a roadmap to show the way. We craft how we're going to release incrementally whatever we're doing. We put together a team charter where the team has ground rules set. There's backlog preparation so that we can have all those requirements or requests. We choose to call them requests, customer-centered requests, because requirements could be different. And that's not to say there couldn't be some, but it needs to be very clear what is absolutely required versus what is a nice to have. Next thing we talk about here is sprint planning, and that means planning the iteration. We have a daily stand-up meeting. We also call it a daily scrum. We have backlog refinement where we tweak the backlog. We actually ensure that what is in the backlog for our next sprint or iteration meets the definition of ready. We want to get those user-centered requests, which we call stories in some instances. We want to get those user stories ready so that we can work on them in the next sprint without delay. Then number 10 says potentially shippable increment is produced, and that is going to be reviewed by the customer. And once that is done, we can have a retrospective where we review what went well, what didn't go so well, take a look at our process and how to improve it. Now, if all value is delivered, then we're good. If it's not, then we got to go back to number 7 and do iteration planning again. But if all value is delivered, then we have our final release or closeout, the final deliverable or the final increment is handed over to the customer. And that's how you need to be thinking in project management. Following these steps, it may not be as straightforward as it looks, but overarching ideas say satisfy the customer, think about vision, think about where you're going, have a plan, have a roadmap, and you will get to the end. I hope you found this to be helpful. If you got any comments or questions, put them down below in the box. And if you need help as you're learning project management, maybe you need training, coaching, mentoring, maybe you need to send your team to us for help, just send an email. You can see right there, it's info@praizion.com, and the website is praizion.com. Thank you very much. I hope you found this useful. All the best in your project management.